The night was unusually quiet as Sarah made her way home from her late shift at the cafe. The streetlights flickered softly in the distance, casting long shadows across the empty streets. It was past midnight, and she was eager to get home. Her tired feet dragged along the pavement as she wrapped her coat tighter around her, wishing she hadn't taken the late-night shift that evening. The city felt eerily still, as if it were holding its breath. As she turned onto the familiar street that led to her apartment, something felt off. The usual sounds of the city, the hum of traffic, and the rustle of leaves in the wind were absent. In their place, there was a soft, almost melodic sound whistling. It was a low, haunting tune that drifted through the air. Sarah paused, listening carefully. The melody was odd but familiar. It was a lullaby her mother had sung to her when she was a child. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked around but saw no one. The street was empty, just as it had been for the past few minutes. The only sounds were the faint whistle that seemed to float in the air and the rhythmic tapping of her shoes on the pavement. She continued walking, trying to shake the uneasy feeling creeping over her. Maybe it was just her imagination, she thought. But then the whistling grew louder. Sarah quickened her pace, her breath coming out in visible puffs of air in the cold night. Her mind raced. Was it someone playing a prank on her? Or was it something more sinister? The melody felt too intentional, too purposeful. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet betrayed her. They carried her forward, closer to the sound. She turned a corner, hoping to get away from the noise, but it followed her. The whistling continued, now right behind her, as though someone was walking in her footsteps. Her heartbeat quickened, and her skin prickled with dread. She spun around, half expecting to see someone standing there, but there was no one. The street was empty again, but then she saw something that made her blood run cold. In the dim light of a nearby alley, a figure stood, partially obscured by the shadows. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The man was tall, his face hidden in the darkness, but she could see enough to know that he was staring at her. His eyes gleamed faintly, but they were unblinking. The figure didn't move, but the whistling continued, as if coming directly from him. "Who's there?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. The man didn't respond, but the whistling grew louder, more insistent. The eerie tune echoed through the alley, sending chills down her spine. Her legs froze. It was the lullaby, the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her when she was young. It was too specific to be a coincidence.